All right, so it's 3 p.m. on January 3rd, just to kind of give you guys a timeline of things, because I'm sure a lot more news will come out in the coming days and weeks, and who knows how long really. But it's been a little over 12 hours since Shams Charania put out his official report that Jimmy Butler has requested a trade from the Miami Heat. So in today's video, I kind of want to talk about what happened, how this all happened so fast, and share my thoughts on it. Because yesterday I did post sort of an instant reaction video, giving you guys all the facts and reacting to Jimmy Butler's very depressing post-game conference. And actually, my first initial reaction ever seeing that video was live on the Basement Sports Network post-game show.
Some people have said he didn't officially request a trade. That has now changed.
Wait, what
officially?
Did
You didn't see? Have you seen Jimmy's
see the video?
I just finished my uploading my.
Hold
on.
Let him watch it on the stream. Justin, bring the video.
I literally was editing.
Justin, bring the video back up and let Ant watch it again.
So if y'all want to see my initial reaction to the first time ever seeing that, go check out that post-game show from the Heat versus Pacers game. You can literally see the smile fade from my face, and you can see me get visually sick as Jimmy Butler utters the words, Probably not, in regards to getting his joy back with the Miami Heat. But anyways, in today's video, I actually have a ton of notes just kind of going over everything and how I feel. So let's get right into it, starting with the reasons why Jimmy Butler is now so upset. Because, of course, this is a huge shift in his mindset of what we heard in the last couple seasons of him wanting to retire as a Miami Heat. So what the hell happened? Well, the first reason I put here is obviously the money. We know this past offseason, he wanted that max extension from Pat Riley, and Pat Riley didn't want to give it to him. And of course, Jimmy wants to get paid, rightfully so. We know he wants to win above almost everything else except for his money, which I think is fair because everybody wants to get paid first, as they should. Now, initially, from this past offseason, I didn't think Jimmy cared that much about the money, because if you listen to his media day presser when he was asked about the money, he quite literally said that an extension is just a couple dollars and he has enough money already.
Or part of you that, like some players might say, well, maybe I want to be somewhere else. Did that thought ever come up, and why not?
Nah, I'm good. An extension is just, a couple of dollars. I'm cool. I'm telling you. I think I've made enough. I just want to play basketball. I want to be available, like Pat was talking about, and I plan on being that. I plan on us winning a bunch of games and making everybody happy.
Everything seemed all good. So really, what the hell happened between then and now? It doesn't look like y'all are subscribed yet, so can you do that for me? It's completely free and it helps me out a lot. Thank you. I'm very curious who's going to pay him now. Obviously, since coming back from being sick, we'll say, he hasn't looked great. He's only played 25 minutes each game. He's scored under 10 points each night. And if Jimmy's ultimate goal is to get paid, you'd think he'd want to go out there and perform and show effort, and that just really hasn't been the case. So I am very curious as to who's going to pay Jimmy. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying that, well, Jimmy's always got paid when he's gone to a new team, and teams don't care if he's disgruntled. They'll take that on like they have time and time again. But to that I say, well, this situation is a little bit different than his previous exits from Chicago and Minnesota and Philly, because now Jimmy Butler is 35. Maybe all those next teams would be willing to take on Jimmy Butler and pay him max money with the concern that he might be disgruntled one day, because he was a lot younger and there really wasn't any concern whether he could still perform or not on a basketball court, or concern whether he could stay healthy. But now at 35 years old, he hasn't played over 65 games in like 6 years, and his numbers are drastically declining. Other teams might be a lot more hesitant to pay him, and just the way Jimmy's been on the court over these last 2 games since returning, I don't know who's going to do that. Obviously, they have another game tomorrow versus the Utah Jazz, so we'll see what happens with regards to Jimmy's on-court performance. But for now, there's a big question mark there. So outside of the money, another reason that's been widely reported of why Jimmy Butler is frustrated here is he hasn't gotten enough help, which I certainly think is fair. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, the help they got you was Kyle Lowry. That was your guy. That's the guy you wanted, and Pat Riley got that for you. And I will 100% agree. Obviously, Kyle Lowry didn't really work out here. He had maybe one good season, 1.5, but things kind of fell off the rails pretty quick after that. And for that, I blame Jimmy Butler. That's the guy he wanted, and it did not work out. And it really did hamstring this organization from a cap standpoint, because he was getting paid like $35+ million a year, and you signed him when he was 35. So obviously he was already old, and that wasn't going to last long. But that being said, if Kyle Lowry was the best acquisition that this front office got Jimmy Butler in his era here, then that's just not good enough. You have to do more than that. And I went through and I looked at every trade or free agent acquisition that this front office has added since Jimmy Butler's been here. And the top 5 most impactful guys, in my opinion, have been Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, PJ Tucker, and Jay Crowder. Now, while I love those guys, and there's a few other names like Kevin Love you can maybe add, but those are the top 5 most impactful guys. If those are your best acquisitions in a 6-year window, that's just not good enough. And that's the facts of it. So if Jimmy Butler is frustrated that he's done all he could on the court, we know he's had countless incredible games and postseasons for the Heat, and they reward him by getting him a bunch of undrafted free agents, then I do understand Jimmy Butler's frustration with regards to getting help for him. So I think that's fair. Now, aside from the money and help on the court, another reason, which we just heard yesterday, which is what really confused me, is Jimmy Butler said he was frustrated with his role here. Now, I gave my instant opinion on that comment yesterday, which of course was confusion, but at the same time, I didn't understand it because it sounded like he was blaming Spoelstra for his lack of usage. And that doesn't make sense to me because you're the star player. If you want the ball, go get it. There was portions of the game versus New Orleans and the game yesterday versus the Pacers where he's out there with like Hayward, Highsmith, Alec Burks, Jovic, and Terry Rozier. You're the captain of that unit. Go get the ball. I really don't think it's Eric Spoelstra out there saying, oh, Jimmy, go sit in the corner while we let Terry create, and now you're a floor spacer. Your job is just to play defense. I don't buy that's the case. And that's kind of what Jimmy was saying yesterday in the post-game presser. Now, in the last 12 hours, I have had some time to listen to other Heat content creators, Brendan Tobin, my guy, 5 Reasons, Locked On, and pretty much we all agree on this point. It just kind of sounds like BS at this point. And I think maybe the reason that Jimmy Butler has decided to bring that up yesterday in his post-game press conference is because he wants other teams to still believe that there's value in him. And of course, other teams are going to look at his numbers and say, hey, you only scored 9 points these past 2 games. Why would we pay you? And I think Jimmy's trying to make the excuse that it's not his fault. It's the front office fault, or I guess more so the coaching staff's fault for not putting him in a position to get his numbers. And I just don't think that's fair. I mean, if you've watched Heat basketball over the last, we'll say 3 years, there is a plethora of games in which Jimmy Butler just looks like he doesn't try out there. That's not just a new thing this season. That's something we've seen for the last few seasons as well. And I've been okay with it at points because as an aging superstar whose body takes a takes a beating and gets bruises every game because of his play style, he needs to sort of conserve his body for the playoffs. And we've seen playoff Jimmy, which is the more important than regular season Jimmy. So I kind of understood maybe the lack of effort in a handful of games here and there from Jimmy Butler over the last few seasons. However, if that's the case, you can't come out now and blame the coaching staff for your lack of effort. Like, I just don't think that's really a thing. And then I guess outside of his role, Jimmy's also been widely reported, that he's frustrated with Pat Riley's comments, and I guess now comments of really the whole front office at this point. Of course, this past offseason, you had Pat Riley tell Jimmy to keep his mouth shut when Jimmy was out there saying, oh, if I was playing, I would have beat Boston, I would have beat the Knicks and all this stuff. And yeah, I kind of agree with Pat Riley on that. I don't really know why Jimmy's out there saying what would have happened if I played. The reality was you didn't, and you did coast a lot in the regular season, so you could play in the playoffs, and then you didn't get to play in the playoffs. Now, is that your fault? Not necessarily. I mean, you kind of got trucked by Kelly Oubre, which was a weird play, and you got hurt on that. But in reality, any injury is a weird play, and you could blame someone else for injuring you in any spot. I mean, the year before, you could blame Josh Hart for rolling into Jimmy Butler's ankles. Like, something can always happen to cause your injury, but at the end of the day, you're either available or you're not. And Pat Riley shared his concerns of Jimmy Butler's availability this past offseason in his postseason press conference, and Jimmy responded to that by missing 30% of the games this season. And now it looks like he's going to miss a hell of a lot more. Now, in Jimmy's defense, he obviously had a very tragic thing happen to him last year with his father passing. If you've seen the Starting Five documentary on Netflix, it was pretty well documented. It's very, very sad. So I do completely understand from the aspect of Jimmy being frustrated with Riley's comments, because Riley in that time of his answer seemed to sort of neglect that, which is kind of really messed up, because for last season in particular, a lot of the time Jimmy missed was because of the passing of his father. And I understand what that can do to Jimmy. I'm not sure his headspace has ever been back since. In that Netflix documentary, he said that he really lost his joy for playing basketball. And I don't know if he ever got it back. And I don't know if the Heat have ever helped him get it back. And I don't know if there's anything they could actually do to help Jimmy get it back. Because truthfully, I went through the same thing Jimmy Butler did, literally the day before this Heat season started. So about 3 months ago. So I understand what that does to a person, truthfully. And yeah, it's tough for that to happen to you. And then you hear someone like Pat Riley kind of call you out publicly in a statement that Pat Riley probably could have kept private. I do get why Jimmy would be frustrated at that. Although I think I do agree with Pat's overall points, because like I said, it hasn't just been a couple years Jimmy's missed games. He hasn't played over 65 games in like 6 seasons. So, but even more recently than those Pat Riley comments, Jimmy Butler was apparently also called out by someone else in the front office or coaching staff just after the Pelicans game, which was 2 games ago. And apparently they said that he wasn't trying hard enough. And really, I think that was the breaking point for him, because in his post-game press conference versus the Pacers, which was the next game, he basically said, "You can't question my effort." He said, "I did my job out there. My man didn't score. Don't question my effort." And I know guys get very pissed off when you question their effort. That's happened in sports over the last several seasons. Guys do not like when you question their heart. And I guess that's kind of what someone in the front office did. And I hate to say it, if you watch Jimmy Butler out there these games, it's not just the game versus the Pelicans. You can see there's games where he's out there coasting. That's just the reality of it. And man, I love Jimmy Butler as much as the next guy. That's my favorite player, man. But you can't deny that he's been coasting a lot of the time. And then you had some more news break today. Barry Jackson reported that apparently Jimmy's camp is claiming that the Heat tried to suspend him after that Pelicans game, which is wild. The Heat immediately came out and said that's complete BS. So this whole thing with maybe Jimmy being offended personally by some of these comments is weird to me, because Jimmy always said, since he joined the Heat, that he appreciates being called out. Part of the thing he didn't like in all his other spots is that everyone was too scared to say what's on their mind. They didn't like to tell it how it is. And Jimmy's always a guy who says how he feels. So for someone in the front office or coaching staff to tell Jimmy they feel like he's coasting, because he was, for Pat Riley to say, you got to be more available, keep your mouth shut until you are, those are factual things. So for Jimmy Butler to take personal offense to that, maybe he's not the guy that we thought he was. Because you would think he would take that to heart and say, you know what, they're right. I am asking for a lot of money and I haven't been available over these last few seasons. I need to play basketball. And he kind of said that in this past offseason and on a media day. We heard the clip. He said, as Pat said, I need to play more games and I'm ready to do that. So what happened between then and now, I still don't know. And the part that's even a little bit more confusing is Jimmy, you would think he would want to respond to all these criticisms, and if he thinks there's slights to his character, you'd think he'd want to respond with all-out effort. Think about Minnesota. He went into the practice that day and said, you bleeping need me. And he apparently took the third stringers and destroyed the starters without scoring a single point. He was just out there playing defense and facilitating. But he was trying so damn hard that he showed the team that they need him. You compare that to what we're seeing now with Jimmy Butler on the court in these past 2 games, 9 points. Looking like he's not even trying, going out there and standing in the corner. And I just don't see how that's beneficial to him or the Heat. But, especially to him, if he wants another team to value him and get him his money. So, I don't know. I think overall the biggest thing that changed was yesterday's breaking point a couple days ago, breaking point of him being called out for not trying. And I think Jimmy prides himself as an all-out effort guy. So whether he actually is that or not, I don't think he appreciated being called out. So I think that was the breaking point. Although everything else we mentioned before, the money, the not getting enough help, maybe his role, I think those all contributed to why he has officially asked out. Now, as far as who I blame, obviously I've talked about this at length many times. I do blame Jimmy and I do blame Pat Riley. I think too many people on Heat Twitter now are picking a side and only defending that side where one side's completely in the wrong, one side's completely in the right. It's not like that. It's not a black and white situation. Now, if I had to put blame on someone, I will put majority of the blame on the front office. If I had to put a percentage out there, maybe I'd say like 75% the blame's on the front office, 25% on Jimmy. Most of the blame's on the front office just because they have failed Jimmy Butler. I believe that. If you think about the countless great performances Jimmy's had in the Heat uniform, he really hasn't been the problem when it's come to the postseason. It hasn't been him. He just hasn't had enough help. And this Jimmy Butler era has been a failure because the goal is to achieve a championship. And if you fail to achieve the ultimate goal, then you have failed. I don't care about the relative success to other poverty franchises because the Heat have a different standard. Our standard is championships. It's not making the playoffs like the Sacramento Kings or Detroit Pistons. It's not. It's winning a championship, particularly when in the first year of this build, you reach the NBA Finals. The goal every year since is to build a championship team. And who builds the team? It's the front office. Therefore, failure to build a championship winner, I put the blame on the front office. Now, the 25% I blame Jimmy for is he wasn't always available, and I don't think it's right for him to really get upset about the money when he sees that he's 35 and he's constantly getting hurt, and that's not going to get any better as he gets older. And maybe if Jimmy Butler didn't coast in so many games last year, they wouldn't have been in the 7th seed. They wouldn't have been in the play-in. Jimmy wouldn't have got hurt by Kelly Oubre. And then who knows what happens. Maybe they can go on another finals run and win the whole damn thing last year. But we'll never know. Because they were in the play-in. Jimmy did get hurt because he did coast a lot in the regular season. And he wanted Kyle Lowry, which that's one of the worst acquisitions this Heat team's ever made. But anyways, I know a lot of people that's really against Jimmy here. They'll say that he's the problem because he's done this in every spot. He becomes disgruntled everywhere he goes. But I would also flip that and say the same thing is the case with Pat Riley. I mean, if you think about it, his relationship with Zoe and Shaq and Wade and LeBron and Bosh, they all ended on bad terms. Now, I know they were for different reasons, and with pretty much all of them, definitely all of them, I'd say, they have sort of reconciled that relationship. Obviously, Zoe works here. Wade got a statue. Shaq, speaks highly of them now. I'm sure LeBron will get his jersey retired one day. And the Bosh thing was a bit different because they were trying to protect him from himself with regards to his health issues. But regardless, at the end of the day, all of those guys left the Heat on bad terms. That should not happen. Every big superstar you have should not leave your organization hating you. And what is the combination with all of those guys? Well, it's Pat Riley because he was the guy in charge. So I think that ultimately the Heat should have just paid Jimmy Butler because your championship window is with him. And you win rings with superstars. And who knows the next time we get a guy the caliber of Jimmy Butler. Like, he was your championship window. Whether it was just the rest of this year and next year, and then he's ass after that, I don't care. Because I don't know the next time you're going to get a guy of his caliber. So I would have just paid him because he is the championship window. And it's unfortunate that now we're going to lose him because he decided to get in a pissing contest with Pat Riley. Or I guess Pat Riley decided to show his ego over Jimmy and show Jimmy that he still runs things. He's still the tough boss, which is stupid to me. I mean, I love Pat Riley. I love everything he's done for this organization. I love the Heat culture that he brought here. But he's turning 80 years old in March, and continuing to run your stars out of town is just stupid. And if this organization had to pick between Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley, it don't make sense to go with the 80-year-old guy when you might have been able to, win something with Jimmy in the next year or two. It's just very, very unfortunate. So more than anything, I'm sad. And I'm still kind of shocked, I guess. Now, I shouldn't be shocked because all of these pieces have sort of been coming together over the last several months now. I mean, you had in the media day where first Jimmy showed up late, and then it came out very shortly after that he wasn't going to sign an extension with the Heat this year. You had Wade at his statue ceremony say that a house divided will not stand. And at the time, I thought that was a bit weird. It sounded like he was sort of talking about Jimmy Butler versus the Miami Heat. You also had Jimmy Butler a couple weeks ago after Bernie Lee shot down the Shams reports of the Heat looking to move him, where Jimmy Butler in a post-game press conference said, "At least somebody had my back," which sounded like a direct shot at the front office, and it was. And then you've also had Jimmy's multiple comments over the last couple weeks saying that he's unsure if he wants to stay with the Miami Heat. He's been very non-committal about that. Whereas if you asked him that question any of the previous 5 seasons, he would have said, I want to finish my career in a Heat jersey. He was more committal than you ever could be. And now him just being unsure about that kind of was the final writing on the walls. In addition to him being sick the last couple weeks, he said he was down for the count. I believe that he was probably sick, but there's no denying that the timing of it is at least weird at the latest, especially when the Heat supposedly expected him to return on the road trip, and then he didn't return on the road trip. And now that he's back and he's still looking like he doesn't care too much out there, it's just, it's a lot of weird stuff. And now we're finally starting to put all the puzzle pieces together. As someone who loves Jimmy Butler, as a relatively optimistic fan, although I'll be maybe ignorant at times, I try to look past those and say, oh, well, there's been a lot of good moments recently too. You had Jimmy Butler at his post-game press conference a few weeks ago with Tyler Hero. They were laughing about who's 1A and who's 1B. It looked like the vibes were great again. You had after the Pelicans game, Jimmy was posting his teammates on social media and tagging them all. So it seemed like the chemistry was good once again. It seemed like the power of friendship and tomfoolery was back. You also had Jimmy Butler saying that he would have got ejected if he was in Houston during the Amen Thompson-Tyler Hero scuffle. Because he said, oh, if somebody's trying to fight my boy Tyler, you best believe I would have been out there defending him. And then you had Jimmy Butler at the media day this past offseason where he said all the right things, which, we discussed earlier. So I was hoping that everything was good again. So really, what changed? Well, again, it's a combination of all the reasons that I mentioned earlier in this video, and it was all kind of building up to this breaking point where it all boiled over. So I'm sad, and I know a lot of Heat fans wanted to trade Jimmy. I didn't, but I understand, of course, from a team-building standpoint, it's hard to believe this Heat core could have won a championship versus the likes of an Oklahoma City or Boston or Cleveland. So the brain understands we probably should have traded Jimmy a year or two ago, recouped as many assets as possible, but my heart as a Jimmy Butler lover could never allow that. It's just sad when you think about all the great moments really culminating to nothing, or at least not achieving the ultimate goal, which is a championship, which Jimmy Butler desired more than anything. And same with us Heat fans. I mean, you look back to that 2020 run where he was carrying the likes of Kendrick Nunn and Myers Leonard and Kelly Olynyk and Jay Crowder, who couldn't hit a damn shot. He was carrying them to Game 6 of the NBA Finals. The incredible triple-double performances he had, leaning over the scorer's table. You think back to 2022, Game 6 in Boston. He pulled a LeBron James and willed this team to Game 7. You think about 2023, the miraculous, never forgetting first-round series versus the Milwaukee Bucks, where the 8th seed Miami Heat upsetted the number 1 seed Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks on the back of Jimmy Butler, who had an all-time memorable performance in Game 4, hit the game-tying shot at the buzzer to send the game in overtime in Game 5 to mount just a ridiculous comeback. He really made me believe as a grown adult that he was superhuman, that he possessed some kind of magic. That's why this one hurts for me. Obviously, we've lost great players before, but I think when LeBron left, I was 16. So I was a lot younger. I really didn't understand it. And as a kid, you sort of idolize these guys. And now I sit here at 26 years old. I don't idolize Jimmy Butler, but I am a fan of his. But as a grown-ass man, every time the Heat were down and had their backs against the wall, I had faith because of him. He made me believe that anything was possible. And to do that as an adult is just special. I remember before he hit that game-tying layup in Game 5 versus the Bucks in 2023. The Heat had the ball down 2, and then Spoelstra called a timeout. And I remember, I have a video of it somewhere. I'll post it in another video, maybe when Jimmy ultimately gets traded. But my girl was recording me before, and I said, I have no doubt in my bleeping mind that Jimmy Butler's about to end this game. And sure enough, he didn't end the game, but he sent it to overtime and then ended the game from there. You just never had a guy give you so much faith in a team since, I guess, LeBron left, that anything was possible and you truly could win any game or any series. And that was because of Jimmy Butler. So to see him leave on just such bad terms is what really hurts. You could have took if maybe both sides disagreed and he wanted his money elsewhere, but to see things end ugly for a guy that gave us so many great memories, it just hurts the soul. It really, really does. Jimmy said so many times here that he felt the love. It was the first time he was truly happy because this organization is the first one that let him be himself. So you think about that and think about how happy Jimmy finally was for it to end in such a bad way. It's heartbreaking. It really is. And now not only is the Heat and Jimmy Butler on bad terms, it seems like everyone is. You had Barry Jackson fighting with this guy Ernie on Twitter today. I think Ernie is one of Jimmy's closest friends, is what people were saying. And it's actually really funny. I like Barry's response here. But basically, Barry initially tweeted, even though Butler camp has been telling people that Heat were threatened to suspend him after Pelicans game, he is insistent that's BS and that never happened. So that's when Jimmy's friend Ernie responds saying, here comes the lies to make someone out to be the bad guy. Where's your integrity in reporting, Barry? Do you just put out what they tell you to put out, even though you know they're all lies? Have you been lying enough during this whole process? And then Barry Jackson responds saying, hey, moron, I presented both sides. That's what journalists do. I didn't guess who was telling the truth and who was lying. And then he just has the all-time response to that, where once again Barry says, go back in your jock-sniffing hole instead of questioning integrity of multi-time winner of Sports Writer of the Year award. Have a nice day. And then actually a minute before I started this recording, I had to update this screenshot because there was another reply, this time from Kevin Love, who said, I've seen enough. Give Barry the max, which is absolutely hilarious. Kevin Love has been on one. If you're not following him on Twitter or Instagram, go do it now because he's been an absolute joy to watch. But anyways, I understand both sides of this whole saga. It's unfortunate that this is the result. So as far as what's next, well, is Jimmy going to play? Is he not going to play? I'm not even going to speculate because we'll find out very soon as there's a game tomorrow. Do they end up trading Jimmy? A week ago, I would have said hell no, because Jimmy Butler said, Pat Riley said, let me make this very clear. We're not trading Jimmy Butler. But at the time, Jimmy didn't make a formal trade request, and now he has. So who the hell knows? If I had to throw a blind guess out there, I think the Heat ultimately do trade Jimmy Butler to the highest bidder before the trade deadline. But that's really only if they are able to get back some sort of expiring contracts, because the other side of not trading Jimmy is letting him walk in free agency. And as Bobby Marks points out, that would give the Heat $48.8 million in salary cap space, in addition to all these other exceptions like the non-taxpayer mid-level biannual exception, and then also the ability to take back more salaries in a trade because they would be under the first apron. So if there is a trade out there, they would need expiring money. If not, they'll let Jimmy walk for nothing. I saw a great tweet mock trade earlier of maybe the Heat trading for Van Vliet in addition to 2 first-round picks from the Rockets, because Van Vliet actually has a team option next season. So he is essentially an expiring contract because the Heat could just not pick up his team option. So if you're able to get that big expiring money and 2 first-round picks, maybe you hold on to those assets, and now you actually have a fair shot at getting a guy like De'Aaron Fox or Kevin Durant down the road, or whoever it is that asks out. But there will be plenty of times to talk trades and trade packages, so we'll save that for another video. I just wanted to come on here and share my full thoughts after really having some time to process this. We'll see what happens. Maybe this is all for nothing and the Heat go on a 10-game win streak and they're able to work it out with Jimmy. That'd be best case scenario. But I'm sure I'm just wishful thinking there. I'm really just need to stop coping and come to amends that Jimmy Butler likely has played this is likely his last season in the Heat jersey. But anyways, leave y'all thoughts down below because I'm very curious to hear what y'all think. I'll be reading every single comment and responding to all the ones that I can. In addition to that, make sure to like and subscribe because we're less than 70 subs away from 6K, which is insane. The support's been awesome. Whether Jimmy's here or not, I'll keep watching every Heat game and coming to y'all to talk about the team. That being said, I'll see y'all next time. So peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city trying to get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.